Hi everyone, welcome to Psychiatry Simplified. I'm Sanil Rege, consultant psychiatrist. Today we're going to explore the fascinating world of neuroscience and reveal some astonishing hacks that could supercharge your learning abilities. Have you ever wondered why some people have a natural knack for learning whilst others seem to struggle? Well, the secret is in their brains. So let's jump in and check out the secrets that can supercharge your learning abilities. Hi everyone, welcome to Psychiatry Simplified, the world's leading psychiatry channel for all things psychiatry and neuroscience related. We combine years of clinical experience with academic knowledge with the aim of helping you understand the brain and the mind-body connection better. I'm Sanil Rege, consultant psychiatrist, founder of Psychiatrist and Vita Healthcare. If you're new to this channel, be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on that notification bell. So let's get started. In this video, I'm going to talk about 3 hacks that can make a big difference to your learning. First, sleep. In general, we know that repeated practice and sleep improves long-term retention of information. But did you know that interleaving sleep between learning sessions not only reduces the amount of practice needed by half, but also ensures much better long-term retention? This is fascinating because as I went through school and medical school, my dad, who doesn't have a neuroscientific background at all, but what he used to tell me is that if you want to learn something really well, consider learning that towards the end of the evening, then sleep and read the same thing first thing in the morning. The rest of the day, what you do, try to absorb things in lectures, etc. But what you're really trying to learn, make sure you read that before going to bed, then sleep, and then wake up and read that again, which is fascinating. I've never thought about the neuroscientific reasons behind that, but research now tells us that is one of the best ways of maximizing learning abilities. So this study investigated this specific concept, and what they did was they had 40 participants, and these participants practiced foreign vocabulary until they reached a perfect level of performance. The learning was divided into 2 sessions occurring 12 hours apart. Half of the 40 participants learned in the morning and then in the evening of the single day. The other half learned in the evening, slept, and then relearned the information in the morning of the next day. And their retention was, for both groups, was assessed 1 week later and then after 6 months. And guess which group did better? The group that learned, slept, and then relearned did better than the group that learned in the morning and then in the evening. What they found was 2 really important things. 1, the amount of time, practice time that was needed was reduced by half. And 2, the group that slept between learning sessions had better long-term retention. Fascinating, right? So sleeping after learning generally is a good strategy. However, sleeping between 2 learning sessions is an even better strategy. Now, what might be the neuroscientific reason for this? You see, one of the main functions of sleep is memory consolidation. So we know that the brain replays the information that has been received through the day. It strengthens the neural and the synaptic connections formed during the learning process, and this then leads to improved memory retention. Now, when we delve deeper into the specific brain parts, we know that the hippocampus is the part of the brain that is crucial for the formation and the retrieval of memories, the type of memory we call declarative memory or explicit memory. During waking hours, the hippocampus receives input from various sensory systems. It then processes and integrates it to form new memories. However, the hippocampus has a limited storage capacity and can quickly become saturated with information. This is where sleep starts playing a really important role. So during sleep, the hippocampus replays the information that has happened during the day and in conjunction with other brain regions starts transferring these memories to more permanent storage areas in the neocortex. So essentially what it's doing is taking the memories, transferring them to long-term storage and freeing up space. And this process of transfer from the hippocampus to the neocortex is known as memory consolidation. By consolidating memories, it's freeing up space to encode new experiences during the next day. And you can see what happens to memory and learning if sleep is affected significantly. If this process is disrupted, not only is memory consolidation affected, but daytime learning is also affected. And this is one of the reasons why in conditions such as Alzheimer's dementia, where we think about the memory aspect, the most severe end of the spectrum, often sleep is also significantly affected. So let's look at the specific phases of sleep, the REM sleep and the non-REM sleep, because both of them have different functions. During non-REM sleep, the phase of sleep that's also known as deep sleep, where we have delta waves as the most prominent waves, these are slow waves, waves, anywhere between 1 to 4 hertz. These slow oscillations of this brain activity are thought to facilitate the consolidation of declarative memories, the explicit memories, the kind of memories that you need to recall. And these are usually memories for facts and events. So for example, recalling a phone number. Now, non-REM sleep or deep sleep is also really important because of the process known as brainwashing, if you want to call it that way. The glymphatic system is a sewage system of the brain, or a waste collecting system that actually washes through the brain washing process, to remove amyloid and other toxins that might have accumulated through neuronal activity through the day. And this system is most active in deep sleep, particularly the N3 phase of deep sleep. 80 to 85% of the glymphatic system is active in this N3 deep sleep. And there is some evidence that dysfunction of the glymphatic system due to poor sleep or due to inadequate non-REM sleep may be associated with a range of neurodegenerative conditions. REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep, on the other hand, there is an increase in activity in certain brain regions that are involved in emotional processing and procedural memory. Procedural memory is also known as implicit memory. So it's a sort of memory where you don't necessarily have to recall and actively think. It's sort of stored implicitly and it comes out naturally. For example, riding a bicycle after a while. You don't have to actively think of the process, or driving a car, waking up in the morning and doing the things that come to you very, very naturally. That's procedural memory, and that's where REM sleep plays a very important role. So REM sleep tends to strengthen connections linked to procedural and emotional processing memories. And this is important because in post-traumatic stress disorder, individuals tend to have nightmares, which often when they've experienced trauma, they're reliving that trauma. The brain's trying to process that particular trauma. Now, as part of emotional processing, one requires a restful REM sleep, because restless REM sleep interferes with this process and increases the emotional tone or sensitivity through the day, so that the individual operates on a more hyper-vigilant basis. So this is one of the key aspects that we think of when treating post-traumatic stress disorder. And the reason why I bring this up is because in post-traumatic stress disorder, we also need to think about cognition and memory. The other important function of REM sleep is that REM sleep has a very high level of dopamine that's present, and this is linked to creativity. So the creative learning, the creative aspects, whether it's dreaming and daytime functioning with the ability to expand one's thinking, is linked to adequate REM sleep. In summary, sleep is extremely important for memory consolidation because it allows the brain to replay and strengthen newly acquired memories from the day. It then allows those memories to be transferred to the neocortex for long-term storage, freeing up space for the hippocampus to encode further memories through the day. So you can see by learning, then sleeping, and then relearning again, you are really making a difference to that learning ability. 2, the Zeigarnik effect. The Zeigarnik effect is a psychological principle which is the tendency to remember incomplete or interrupted tasks better than completed tasks. The important aspect here is to take breaks when learning and sometimes to leave tasks unfinished. By leaving tasks unfinished, it can create a sort of mental tension that drives us to seek closure and to remember the task until it's completed. But what's happening here is that there is an ongoing processing that's occurring in the brain through that mental tension that enhances learning. From a neurobiological perspective, this effect is thought to be linked to the brain's ability to maintain task-related information in the working memory. So working memory is essentially a cognitive system that is responsible for temporarily holding and changing information in the mind while performing complex tasks. So for example, whilst you're listening to this, your working memory is going to be active. And after a while, the prefrontal cortex plays a really important role in working memory. And it is thought that the Zeigarnik effect may be related to the activity of the neurons in the prefrontal cortex. So what do I mean by that? When we start a task, our brain begins to encode and store information about that task in the working memory. Now, if the task remains incomplete, this information stays in the working memory in the prefrontal cortex, ensuring ongoing firing of the prefrontal cortex neurons, which means that there is ongoing processing happening. This ongoing processing may enhance both synaptic connections, i.e. resulting in greater strength and durability of the memory trace, making it a lot more easier to recall later on. On the other hand, when a task is completed, there is no further processing that's actually happening in the brain. And therefore, when rehearsing it later, the memory trace has weakened over time. There may be a simpler explanation as well, because sometimes when we leave tasks unfinished, we often have to rehearse or repeat it again. And maybe it's not linked to necessarily the prefrontal cortex and the processing and the working memory, but the fact that we tend to rehearse or repeat things when we come back to a task, which results in better memory consolidation. Nonetheless, the principle is that by taking breaks, you tend to have better memory consolidation and better memory retention. So the Zeigarnik effect appears to be a manifestation of the brain's natural tendency to prioritize and maintain task-related information in the working memory, which ultimately can lead to more effective task completion and improved memory recall. And finally, exercise. Now, studies have shown that aerobic exercise improves learning ability and storage in memory, particularly when exercise is performed before and in close connection with the learning activity. Now, the question as to how long should the exercise effort last and what intensity should one consider exercise to get the most benefit, that's a bit unclear. However, in many studies, there is support for exercise sessions ranging from a couple of minutes to maybe an hour, ranging from moderate to high intensity. So specifically, they've looked at a 5-minute bicycle exercise session followed by 20 minutes of moderate intensity exercise and then a 5-minute cool down. The key message is that exercise closer to a learning activity provides benefits, and I'll talk about the neurobiological reasons in a sec. But of course, we don't want to overdo anything because fatigue overall is going to interfere with learning as well. But note that adding an exercise during the break brings in both the Zeigarnik effect, but also brings in the benefits, the neurobiological benefits of exercise. So you get a dual benefit. Furthermore, we know that when exercise comes into the overall picture, there is the homeostatic buildup of adenosine, which builds up homeostatic pressure for sleep and can improve sleep as well. So you get a 3-factor benefit by including sleep, the Zeigarnik effect with breaks, and exercise. Now, in children, studies have shown that exercising, such as a walk in the park, can help children with ADHD concentrate better than after a walk in a downtown park or a neighborhood setting, which is really fascinating because there's another study that showed that a 1-hour walk in nature reduces amygdala activation. So by reducing amygdala activation overall through walk and exercise, this can improve prefrontal cortex functioning that is responsible for attention and concentration. Because we know that when amygdala is overactivated, there is excess noradrenergic release, i.e. excess stimulation of alpha-1 receptors that tend to impair working memory and memory performance. Similarly, exercising has been shown to boost vocabulary in children as young as 3 to 6 years of age. Now, what might be the neurobiological reasons for this? We know exercise firstly improves brain blood flow. It improves neural plasticity through the release of brain-derived neurotropic factor. So it's sort of a fertilizer for the brain, enhances neurogenesis, neuroplasticity as well. Furthermore, we know exercise tends to particularly improve blood flow in the hippocampus, the same area that we talked about that is necessary for memory consolidation. Now, by improving blood flow for the hippocampus, the part of the brain where neurogenesis tends to occur, and we have very good evidence that this happens over our lifetime, this enhances the ability to learn and retain new information over time. So there you have it. 3 really simple neuroscience hacks to supercharge your learning abilities. Whether you're doing an exam or whether you're just trying to function day to day, maximizing your work performance, or whether you're generally trying to improve your memory in the context of a psychiatric condition, irrespective, these 3 basic things can make a big difference. Sleep, breaking down tasks and leaving them unfinished, coming back to them later, known as the Zeigarnik effect, and 3, exercise. Try implementing these strategies and see how they work for you. And of course, let us know in the comments section if you've got any further thoughts. I hope that you found this video useful, and I'd like to say a big thank you to all of you for supporting our channel. I look forward to seeing you in another video soon. Until then, take care and stay curious.